The gun pressed cold against Layla's temple. She didn't flinch. "You have 30 seconds," she said, staring into the eyes of the most dangerous man in New York, "to tell me where my sister is, or I detonate every server in this building and bury your entire operation." Kai Jun's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. The room had gone silent. 20 of his men surrounded them, weapons drawn, fingers on triggers. The air smelled like expensive cologne and violence. "Bold," he whispered, tilting his head. "Foolish, but bold." His finger hovered over the trigger. Layla's heartbeat thundered in her ears, but her hand remained steady on her phone, one button away from destroying everything he'd built. And then he lowered the gun. "I'm listening." 3 weeks earlier, Layla Brooks had been a different woman. She'd lived in a modest Brooklyn apartment with exposed brick walls and plants she constantly forgot to water. Her life was predictable. Wake at 6, coffee black, 2 sugars, 45-minute commute to her office in Midtown Manhattan. She worked as an intelligence analyst for Sentinel Security, a private firm that handled corporate espionage, background checks, and digital forensics for Fortune 500 companies. Her specialty was pattern recognition, finding needles in haystacks of data, connecting dots others couldn't see. 12-hour shifts, 6-figure salary. A reputation for being brilliant, thorough, and completely uncompromising. Her life was numbers, encrypted communications, satellite imagery, clean, controlled, predictable. Her sister Maya was her opposite. 22 years old with box braids that changed color monthly. Maya was a graphic design student at Pratt Institute who believed rules were suggestions and life was meant to be lived at full volume. She dated musicians, threw impromptu art shows in abandoned warehouses, and had a laugh that could fill entire rooms. They'd grown up in foster care together, bouncing between homes in Philadelphia until Layla aged out at 18. She'd worked 3 jobs to put herself through community college, then transferred to NYU on a full scholarship. When she finally got stable, she'd brought Maya to New York, paid for her education, gave her the childhood they'd both been denied. Maya was reckless and infuriating, and Layla would have died for her, until the night Maya vanished. No note, no goodbye. Just a cryptic text at 2:47 a.m. that made Layla's blood run cold. "Got in over my head. Don't look for me. I'm sorry." But Layla always looked. She'd spent 72 sleepless hours tracking Maya's digital footprint. Deleted Instagram messages recovered from cloud backups, geotagged photos from a nightclub in Tribeca, credit card pings at a bodega in Chinatown, then a gas station in Queens, then nothing. Radio silence. Every trail led to the same conclusion. Maya had been taken by the Jade Serpents, a rising criminal syndicate that had appeared in New York 18 months ago like a cancer, flooding the streets with weapons, synthetic drugs, and terror. They were ghosts, no faces, no names, just violence and fear. But Layla had found something the police and FBI had missed, a pattern in their operations, a signature in their money laundering. And that pattern pointed to one man, Kai Jun, Korean-born, American-raised. 34 years old and already a legend in the underworld. They called him the Ice King because he never lost his temper, never made mistakes, never showed mercy. They called him the Ghost of Manhattan because he controlled half the city's criminal operations while remaining virtually invisible to law enforcement. They called him the man who made empires kneel. Layla called him her only lead, so she did the unthinkable. She hacked his organization's security protocols, forged an invitation to his private event, and walked straight into the lion's den. Because if there was even a 1% chance he knew where Maya was, Layla would burn the entire city down to get her back. The Azure Lotus wasn't just a nightclub. It was a fortress disguised as paradise. Located in a converted warehouse in the meatpacking district, it boasted 3 floors of excess, crystal chandeliers that cost more than houses, imported marble floors, champagne that went for $5,000 a bottle. But beneath the glamour lurked something darker. Velvet ropes manned by ex-military security, cameras hidden in every corner, exits that required biometric scans. This was where New York's criminal elite gathered to conduct business under the guise of celebration. And tonight, Kai Jun was holding court. Layla moved through the crowd in a borrowed black dress that hugged every curve, her natural hair pulled back in an elegant bun. She'd spent 2 hours on her makeup, transforming herself into someone who belonged in this world of champagne and secrets. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but her face remained calm. She'd hacked the guest list, inserting herself as the +1 of a Hong Kong businessman who'd canceled at the last minute. She'd studied the floor plan, mapped every exit, memorized the security rotations, but nothing prepared her for the presence of the man himself. Kai Jun sat in the VIP section like a king on a throne, surrounded by men in tailored Tom Ford suits and women who looked like they'd stepped off runways in Paris. He wore all black, dress shirt, slacks, no tie, and somehow managed to look both elegant and dangerous. He was beautiful in a lethal way, sharp jawline that could cut glass, dark eyes that seemed to see through walls, hair slicked back with surgical precision, skin like amber in the low lighting, a small scar above his left eyebrow, the only imperfection in an otherwise perfect face. He radiated power the way the sun radiated heat. Inevitable, inescapable, dangerous. Layla watched him for 10 minutes, studying his patterns, the way he listened more than he spoke, the slight nod he gave before his security moved, the cold calculation behind every smile. This was a man who missed nothing, which meant she had one shot. She downed her champagne for courage, set the glass down, and walked straight toward him. Kai Jun. Every conversation in the VIP section stopped. Heads turned, music seemed to fade. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. His security moved instantly, hands sliding toward concealed weapons, bodies positioning themselves between Layla and their boss. But Kai raised one finger, just one, and they froze like statues. He studied her with the focus of a predator examining prey. His gaze traveled from her shoes to her face, missing nothing, calculating everything. When he finally spoke, his voice was silk over steel, laced with a faint Korean accent that made every word sound like a threat wrapped in velvet. "You don't belong here." It wasn't a question. Layla forced herself to hold his gaze, even though every instinct screamed at her to run. "My sister is Maya Brooks," she said, voice steady despite her racing heart. 22 years old. Graphic design student at Pratt. She was kidnapped 3 weeks ago by the Jade Serpents. I know they work for you. Something flickered in his eyes. Curiosity, amusement, maybe respect. The Jade Serpents work for no one, he said softly. Liar. The word hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. His security tensed. One of them, a massive man with a shaved head and scars on his knuckles, took a step forward. But Kai's lips curved into the faintest smile. You have courage, he said, setting down his whiskey glass with deliberate care. Or stupidity. I haven't decided which. He stood, unfolding to his full height, 6 feet of controlled violence wrapped in expensive fabric. He moved with predatory grace, closing the distance between them until Layla could smell his cologne, cedar and gunpowder, and something darker. He was close enough to kill her with his bare hands. What makes you think I won't have you thrown in the river? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. Layla's hands trembled, but she clenched them into fists. Because you're curious. You want to know how I found you, how I got past your security, What else I know? How a nobody analyst managed to connect dots that the FBI couldn't. Kai's smile widened, and for the first time, it reached his eyes. Smart girl. He gestured to his men. Take her to the red room. The massive guard grabbed Layla's arm. Wait, she said, panic finally breaking through. I'm not. Gently, Marcus, Kai said, tone pleasant. She's a guest. Marcus's grip loosened slightly, but he still dragged her through a hidden door behind the VIP section, down a corridor lined with soundproofing, into a room that made her blood run cold. The red room was exactly what it sounded like. Crimson walls, low lighting. A single metal chair bolted to the floor in the center. Dark stains on the concrete that could have been wine, but probably weren't. This was where people came to confess, or to die. Marcus shoved Layla toward the chair. She stumbled but didn't fall, catching herself on the metal backrest. Her mind raced through escape scenarios. The door was reinforced steel, probably locked from the outside. No windows. One security camera in the corner. No way out. Marcus positioned himself by the door, arms crossed, expression blank. They waited in silence. 5 minutes. 10. Layla forced herself to breathe slowly, refusing to show fear. Finally, the door opened. Kai entered alone, carrying 2 glasses of whiskey. He'd removed his jacket, rolled up his sleeves to reveal forearms corded with muscle and decorated with intricate tattoos, Korean symbols mixed with geometric patterns. Sit, he said, gesturing to the chair. Layla sat, spine straight, chin up. Kai handed her a glass. I don't drink with people who are about to kill me, she said. If I wanted you dead, you'd already be dead. He took a sip of his own whiskey. This is a conversation. About what? Your sister. Layla's breath caught. Kai circled her slowly, like a shark circling wounded prey. Maya Brooks, he said. 22. Born in Philadelphia. Foster care from age 8. Moved to New York 3 years ago. Pratt Institute. Graphic design major. 3.7 GPA. Currently working on her senior thesis about Afrofuturism and Korean street art. Layla's stomach dropped. How do you... I know everything that happens in my city. He stopped in front of her, including when young women get involved with the wrong people. Where is she? Alive, for now. Rage surged through Layla's veins. If you've hurt her... I haven't touched her, Kai said calmly. The Jade Serpents took her. They're using her as leverage. For what? That's complicated. Layla shot to her feet, whiskey sloshing. My sister is not complicated. Marcus moved from the door, but Kai waved him off. Sit. Down. The command in his voice was absolute. Layla sat. Kai pulled out his phone, swiped twice, and turned the screen toward her. The photo made her world tilt. Maya. Bound to a chair with zip ties, tape over her mouth, bruises on her cheekbone, terror in her eyes, but alive, breathing. A sob tore from Layla's throat before she could stop it. Kai pulled the phone back. She got involved with a man named Vincent Chen, mid-level dealer for the Serpents. He used her as a courier without her knowing. Gave her packages to deliver to her art school friends. Told her it was promotional material for his tech startup. Drugs, Layla whispered. Worse. Encrypted hard drives containing trafficking routes, client lists, payment schedules. Your sister was carrying information that could bring down half the Serpent's operation. By the time she realized what she was doing, it was too late. So they took her. As insurance. If those drives ever surface, she dies. If anyone comes looking, she dies. If the police get too close, she dies. Layla finished, voice hollow. Kai nodded. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Layla looked up. What do you want? The same thing you do, Kai said. To dismantle the Jade Serpents. They've become... problematic. Problematic, Layla repeated, incredulous. They're terrorists. They're competition, and they're sloppy. They traffic children, sell weapons to domestic terrorists, flood schools with fentanyl. They're bad for business and worse for the city. And you're what? Better? Kai's expression hardened. I control territory. I regulate violence. I keep monsters like the serpents from running wild. What I do keeps this city from tearing itself apart. That's a convenient justification for being a criminal. Maybe, but it's also the truth. He leaned against the wall, studying her. You're an intelligence analyst. You think in patterns, systems, weaknesses. I've been tracking the serpents for 6 months, but they're ghosts. No central leadership, no fixed locations. But you found me in 3 days. Layla's eyes narrowed. So use me as bait. No. He pushed off the wall. I want to use you as a weapon. He crossed to her, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. I need someone who can infiltrate their network, decode their operations, find their leadership. Someone smart enough to survive and ruthless enough to do what's necessary. And if I refuse? Kai's expression didn't change. Then your sister dies, and you never leave this room. The threat hung between them, cold and absolute. Layla's mind raced. Every instinct screamed that this was insane, working with a mob boss, entering a world of violence she'd only analyzed from behind computer screens. But Maya's terrified face burned in her memory. One condition, she said. When this is over, when Maya's safe, you let us both walk away. No debts, no strings, no coming after us. Kai studied her for a long, dangerous moment, then extended his hand. Deal. Their palms touched. His hand was warm, calloused, surprisingly gentle. And in that moment, everything changed. Layla Brooks had just made a deal with the devil. And she had no idea if she'd survive it. Training began at dawn. Marcus picked Layla up from her apartment at 5:30 a.m. in a black SUV with tinted windows. She'd barely slept, spending the night researching everything she could find about Kai Jun, which was almost nothing. No criminal record, no social media, no digital footprint beyond a few business licenses for legitimate holdings. The man was a ghost. They drove to Red Hook, to what looked like an ordinary logistics warehouse. But when Marcus scanned his palm on a hidden biometric reader, the loading dock door opened to reveal something entirely different. A compound. State-of-the-art surveillance equipment, weapons caches organized with military precision, training facilities that would make special forces operators jealous. A war room with screens displaying real-time feeds from across the city. And people. At least 30 operatives moving with purpose, checking weapons, reviewing intel, training in a mat area. A diverse crew, Korean, Black, Latino, white, men and women, all dangerous. Kai stood in the center of it all, wearing tactical pants and a black t-shirt that showed off arms built for violence. He looked up when Layla entered. "Welcome to the sanctuary," he said. "This is where we work, where we train, where we plan, and where you'll learn to survive." A woman approached, mid-30s, Korean, with a scar running from her temple to her jaw and eyes that had seen too much. "This is Jin," Kai said. "My second in command, former ROK Special Forces. If I'm not available, you answer to her." Jin looked Layla up and down, unimpressed. She looked soft. "She walked into the Azure Lotus and threatened me in front of 20 armed men," Kai said. "She's not soft, just untrained." Jin's expression shifted slightly. Maybe respect. "We'll see. Change. We start in 10. Layla was given tactical clothing, cargo pants, boots, a fitted black tank top. When she emerged from the changing room, Kai was waiting in the training area. "Rule 1, he said, handing her a Glock 19. "In my world, hesitation kills." Layla had never held a real gun before. The weight surprised her, the potential violence in 9 millimeters of metal. Kai stepped behind her. his chest against her back, hands guiding hers into position. His warmth seeped through her clothes. "Feet shoulder-width apart," he murmured, voice low in her ear. "Firm grip, not tight. Arms extended. Breathe. Focus on the target. And when you're ready, squeeze, don't pull." Layla's heart hammered, but she did as instructed. The shot cracked through the range, louder than she expected. The target jerked, dead center mass. "Good," Kai said, stepping back. His absence felt like cold water. "Again." They spent 3 hours on the range. Kai was relentless, correcting her stance, her breathing, her grip, making her fire until her arms ached and her ears rang despite the protection. But she got better. By the end, she could group her shots within a 6-inch circle at 25 yards. "Not bad for a first day," Jin said, appearing with bottles of water. "Tomorrow we work on tactical reloads and malfunction drills." "Tomorrow we work on hand-to-hand combat," Kai corrected. "She needs to be able to fight her way out if things go wrong." "Things will definitely go wrong," Jin said. "They always do." The next 3 days were hell. Kai pushed Layla past every limit she thought she had. Hand-to-hand combat with Jin, who moved like water and hit like a truck. Surveillance tactics with Marcus, learning to tail suspects without being noticed. Code-breaking under pressure with a nervous tech specialist named David, who spoke 3 languages and had hacked into the Pentagon as a teenager. Kai was there for all of it, watching, correcting, pushing. "Faster!" he'd bark when she was running drills. "Your sister doesn't have time for you to catch your breath." "Again?" he'd say when she failed a lockpicking exercise. "The Serpents won't give you a second chance." "Think," he'd demand when she froze during a simulated interrogation. "Fear makes you stupid. Control it." But in the quiet moments, she saw something else. The way he protected David, who was barely 20 and clearly terrified of fieldwork. The careful respect he showed Jin, never undermining her in front of the team. The late nights he spent in the war room, reviewing case files, searching for patterns in the Serpent's movements. One night, Layla found him alone in his office, surrounded by photographs pinned to a board. Victims of the Jade Serpents. Women who'd been trafficked, kids who'd overdosed on fentanyl. Families torn apart. "Can't sleep?" he asked without turning. "Can you?" Kai's laugh was bitter. "Not in years." Layla stepped closer, studying the board. "Why do you do this, really?" He was silent for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "My sister was 14 when a gang killed her for being in the wrong neighborhood. I was 17. Powerless. I watched her bleed out on a sole street while people walked by like she was trash." Layla's breath caught. "I swore I'd never be powerless again," Kai continued, voice flat. "I came to America, built an organization, and I've spent every day since trying to make sure what happened to her doesn't happen to anyone else." He finally turned to face her. "The police are overwhelmed. The FBI is too slow. Politicians are bought and paid for. So someone has to maintain order in the chaos. Someone has to keep the real monsters in check." "Even if that someone becomes a monster too?" Kai's smile was sad. "Especially then." Layla saw it then. The boy beneath the mob boss. The brother beneath the Ice King. The man who'd taken his grief and rage and forged it into something that looked like purpose. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "about your sister. Don't be. Just help me make sure Maya doesn't end up on this board." Their eyes held. Something passed between them. Unspoken. Dangerous. Understanding. Kai broke the moment first, turning back to his files. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow we start the real work." But Layla stood there for a moment longer, studying the line of his shoulders, the tension in his jaw, and realized she was starting to see Kai Jun not as a monster, but as a man. A damaged, dangerous, utterly compelling man. And that terrified her more than anything else. The infiltration plan was elegant in its simplicity. The Jade Serpents operated through a network of front businesses, shipping companies, import-export firms, cash-heavy establishments like laundromats and restaurants. They used legitimate operations to move illegal goods, hiding in plain sight. Kai's intelligence had identified a weak point, a shipping company in Sunset Park called Pacific Gateway Logistics. They processed container shipments from Asia, and Layla's analysis had found anomalies, containers that weighed wrong, manifests that didn't match cargo, payments routed through shell corporations. They're using it as a hub, Layla explained, pointing at the schematics displayed in the war room. Every major Serpent operation connects back to this location. If we can access their servers, we can map their entire network. Security? Jin asked. Standard for a shipping company. Cameras, security guards, basic digital encryption, nothing we can't handle. Kai studied the plans. When? Thursday. There's a night shift change at 11 p.m., 15-minute window where coverage is thinnest. And if you're caught? Layla met his eyes. I won't be. Thursday arrived wrapped in rain and darkness. Layla sat in the back of a surveillance van 2 blocks from Pacific Gateway, dressed as a courier, blue uniform, clipboard, fake ID badge that David had created with frightening accuracy. Kai's voice crackled through her earpiece. Cameras disabled. You have an 8-minute window before the loop resets. Copy. Layla stepped out into the rain, pulling her cap low. She walked with purpose to the side entrance, swiped the cloned security card, and slipped inside. The building smelled like oil and cardboard. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Somewhere, a radio played tinny pop music. She moved through corridors mapped from stolen blueprints, heading for the administrative office on the 2nd floor. 2 guards in the break room, Kai reported. 3rd one just went to the bathroom. You're clear. Layla reached the office. The door was locked. She pulled out the bump key Jin had taught her to use, working by feel in the dim light. 3 tries. 4. Click. Inside. The office was exactly what she expected. Cheap furniture, filing cabinets, 3 desktop computers humming softly. She crossed to the nearest terminal, plugged in David's custom USB drive. Files began streaming across the screen. Shipping manifests, financial records, encrypted communications, names, dates, locations, a treasure trove of intelligence. And then she saw it. A shipping schedule for container KN 4721. Destination, international waters. Departure, Friday, 6 a.m. Contents, textile samples. But the weight was wrong, the insurance value too high, and the handling instructions included biometric security protocols. Layla's hands shook as she opened the file and found a photograph. Maya, along with 12 other young women, all listed as merchandise. Rage and terror flooded through her in equal measure. Kai, she breathed. I found her. Pier 17. Container ship called the Morning Star. Leaves tomorrow at dawn. Silence on the line. Then, copy. Download everything and exfil. Now. But Layla's fingers were already flying across the keyboard, copying files, tracing connections, building a complete picture of the Serpent's operation. She was so focused she almost didn't hear the footsteps. Kai? I know, 2 men. Headed your way. Abort. Layla yanked the USB drive free, shoved it in her pocket. The footsteps got closer. Voices. Speaking Mandarin. The girl. Boss says she's the leverage for the June operation. Ship leaves in 12 hours, then she's offshore and untouchable. They were 20 feet away. 15. Layla looked around desperately. The office had no other exit. 1 window, 2nd story. 10 feet. Window, Kai said, voice hard. Now! Layla didn't think. She ran to the window, unlocked it, shoved it open. Rain lashed her face. 2-story drop to an alley filled with dumpsters. The door handle turned. Layla climbed onto the sill and jumped. She hit the fire escape hard, pain shooting through her ankle, rolled, kept moving. "Contact!" someone shouted above her. Bullets sparked off the metal grating. Layla half ran, half fell down the fire escape, hit the alley running. Her ankle screamed. She ignored it. A black SUV screeched around the corner. Kai's. The door flew open. "Get in!" Layla dove inside. More bullets shattered the rear window as Kai peeled out, tires screaming. He drove like a demon, blowing through red lights, weaving through traffic, using every dirty trick in the book. Behind them, 2 serpent vehicles gave chase, muzzle flashes lighting up the night. "Hold on!" Kai barked. He yanked the wheel hard, sending the SUV into a controlled drift around a corner. The pursuing cars weren't as skilled. One clipped a parked truck, spinning out. The other followed, but lost ground. Kai navigated the maze of Brooklyn's industrial district with terrifying precision, finally losing their pursuers in a tangle of one-way streets. He pulled into an abandoned lot beneath an overpass and killed the engine. Silence. Rain drummed on the roof. They were both breathing hard, adrenaline still flooding their systems. "You okay?" Kai asked, voice rough. Layla nodded, even though her hands were shaking and her ankle throbbed. And then she laughed. It started small, a giggle born of shock and relief and sheer insanity, but it grew, wild and breathless, until tears streamed down her face. Kai stared at her like she'd lost her mind. "You're insane," he said. "Says the mob boss who just led a car chase through Brooklyn." "That was nothing." "You jumped out a second-story window. You told me to. I didn't think you'd actually do it." Their eyes locked. And suddenly the laughter died. The space between them felt charged, electric. Kai's gaze dropped to her lips. Layla stopped breathing. Then his hand was in her hair, pulling her close, and his mouth crashed into hers, fierce, desperate, claiming. Layla kissed him back like she was drowning and he was oxygen, like the adrenaline and fear and impossible attraction had finally broken through every wall she'd built. His hands mapped her body like he was memorizing her. Her fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer, closer, never close enough. When they finally broke apart, foreheads pressed together, both gasping, Kai whispered, "This is a mistake." "I know," Layla breathed. "We can't." "I know. You're supposed to walk away when this is over." "I know." But neither of them pulled back. "Tomorrow," Kai said softly, "after we get Maya. If we survive, we figure this out. And if we don't survive?" His smile was dangerous. "Then at least we'll die with no regrets." He kissed her again, softer this time. A promise. Then pulled back, started the engine. "Let's go save your sister." They planned the rescue with military precision. Back at the sanctuary, Kai assembled his team in the war room. Jin, Marcus, 2 ex-Delta Force operators named Chen and Rodriguez, and David, who would handle tech support from base. Layla spread the stolen files across the conference table. "The Morning Star," she said, pulling up a blueprint. 12,000-ton container ship. Current manifest shows it's carrying auto parts, but these containers, she highlighted several, have biometric locks and climate control. They're holding people. "Maya's here," she continued, voice cracking slightly. "Container 47B, Deck 3, along with 12 other women. They'll move them to the lower hold once they clear port, deep enough that rescue becomes impossible." "Guard count?" Jin asked. "Minimum 12 armed security, possibly more. The Serpents know we're coming. That firefight tonight wasn't random. They'll be ready." Kai studied the blueprint. So we don't give them time to prepare. We hit them during departure. Chaos and confusion. I can get us harbor clearance, Jin said. Fake inspection crew. We board before they leave port. Marcus grinned. And I'll make sure they can't leave at all. Explosives? Rodriguez asked. Just enough to disable the engines. We're not sinking the ship. Too many innocent crew members. Kai nodded. Teams of 2. Jin and Chen, you secure the bridge and keep the crew contained. Rodriguez and Marcus, engine room. Layla and I will extract the containers. I want Layla on exfil, Jin said. She's not ready for a firefight. I'm going, Layla said firmly. This isn't negotiable. Neither am I. She turned to Kai. My sister. My mission. Kai's jaw tightened. You stay behind me. You see Maya, you get her out. No heroics. No promises. His lips twitched. Wouldn't expect any. They spent the rest of the night preparing, checking weapons, reviewing contingencies, running through the plan until everyone could execute it in their sleep. At 3 a.m., Kai called a break. Layla found herself on the roof of the sanctuary, city sprawling below like a battlefield of lights. The rain had stopped, leaving the air clean and cold. She heard footsteps behind her. Can't sleep? Kai asked, appearing beside her. Would you? Fair point. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city breathe. I've been thinking, Layla said quietly. What happens after? When Maya's safe? When the serpents are gone? Kai's expression was unreadable. You walk away, you rebuild your life. You go back to being an analyst. You forget about all of this. And you? I keep doing what I do, maintaining order, fighting monsters. That's not what I asked. He turned to face her, eyes dark and intense. What do you want me to say, Layla? That I'll leave this life? That we'll run away together and pretend none of this happened? He shook his head. I'm a criminal. This world is all I know, and it destroys everything it touches. I won't let it destroy you. Maybe I'm already destroyed. You're not. How do you know? Because you jumped out a window to save your sister, because you walked into the most dangerous club in New York and threatened me without flinching, because even now, knowing what I am, you're still here. Layla stepped closer. And what are you, Kai Jun? A monster pretending to be a man. I don't believe that. You should. Well, I don't. She placed her hand over his heart. I see you. The real you. The man who protects his team. Who spent 6 months hunting the serpents to save people he's never met. Who built an empire just to keep his city from tearing itself apart. Kai's breath hitched. After tomorrow, Layla whispered. If we survive, ask me to stay. Layla. She kissed him before he could argue. Soft, slow. A promise instead of a demand. When she pulled back, she saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Hope. Get some sleep, he said softly. We have a ship to board. Dawn broke cold and gray over Pier 17. The morning star loomed like a steel mountain, 300 feet of rusted hull and stacked containers. Dock workers moved cargo with mechanical efficiency, oblivious to the violence about to erupt. Layla wore a stolen harbor inspector's uniform, clipboard in hand, heart thundering against her ribs. Jin walked beside her, playing the role of senior inspector with practiced ease. Kai and the others approached from the water, black zodiac cutting through pre-dawn fog, silent as death. Guards at 10 and 2, Jin whispered, nodding toward armed men trying to look like regular security. Layla marked them mentally. Copy. They approached the gangway. A crew member checked their forged credentials. David's work was flawless. He waved them aboard. Inspection should take 30 minutes, Jin said loudly for anyone listening. Standard safety protocol. They split up as planned. Layla headed for the cargo bay, walking with purpose, acting like she belonged. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to find Maya immediately, to tear apart every container until— "Breathe," Kai's voice crackled in her earpiece. "We're in position. 3 minutes." She forced herself to slow down, to maintain cover. The cargo deck was a maze of containers stacked 4 high, each marked with incomprehensible codes. Layla pulled out her phone, cross-referencing the stolen manifests. 47B, Deck 3, port side. She found it, a modified container with ventilation holes and a biometric lock. "Visual on the target container," she whispered. "Hold position," Kai ordered. "We breach together." Seconds crawled by. Then chaos erupted. An explosion rocked the ship. Marcus's work in the engine room. Alarms screamed. Crew members ran in every direction. "Go!" Kai shouted. Layla pulled out the plasma cutter, hands steadier than she'd expected. The lock began to melt, metal glowing orange. Gunfire echoed from the upper decks. "We've got company," Rodriguez's voice. "At least 8 hostiles." The lock gave way. Layla yanked the door open. Darkness. The smell of fear and unwashed bodies. "Maya!" she screamed into the void. Movement. Crying. And then— "Layla?" Her sister's voice weak and terrified. Layla scrambled inside, eyes adjusting to the dim light. 13 women, all zip-tied to metal rails. Maya was in the corner, thinner than she should be, bruises covering her arms. "Oh my God!" Layla sobbed, rushing to her. "I've got you! I've got you!" She pulled out a tactical knife, cutting through the zip ties with shaking hands. Maya collapsed into her arms, sobbing. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Later. We need to move." But as Layla turned to help the other women, footsteps thundered down the corridor. Heavy. Multiple. "Kai," she breathed into her mic. "I need backup. Now." 30 seconds out. How many? The footsteps got closer. Too many. The Jade Serpents' second-in-command appeared in the doorway, a man named Wei with dead eyes and a scar that split his face in half. 4 armed guards flanked him. "Going somewhere?" Wei asked in accented English, raising an AR-15. Layla shoved Maya behind her, positioning herself between her sister and the guns. "You're making a mistake," she said, buying time. Wei smiled. "The only mistake was Kai Jun thinking he could touch our operation. When we're done here, we'll burn his sanctuary to the ground. Starting with you." His finger tightened on the trigger. Kai materialized from the shadows like an avenging angel, pistol raised. "Touch her and die." Wei spun, but Kai was faster. 2 shots. Perfect placement. Wei dropped, eyes wide with shock. The guards opened fire. Kai moved like liquid death, rolling behind a container as bullets sparked off metal. Layla grabbed Maya and the nearest woman, dragging them toward cover. "Stay down!" she screamed. Kai returned fire with surgical precision. 1 guard fell, another, but more were coming. "East corridor!" Jin's voice crackled through comms. 6 more heading your way." Kai ejected his empty magazine, reloaded without looking. "Layla, get them to the port side. Zodiac's waiting." "Not without you. I'll cover your exit. Go." Layla wanted to argue, but Maya was shaking in her arms and 12 other women needed saving. She made the hardest decision of her life. "Don't you dare die," she told Kai. His eyes found hers across the chaos. "Wouldn't dream of it." She gathered the women, moving them toward the exit. Some could barely walk. Layla and another woman, strong, late 20s, supported the weakest. Gunfire echoed behind them. They burst onto the deck into blinding early morning sun. The Zodiac bobbed in the water below, Marcus at the helm. "Jump!" he shouted. One by one, the women leaped. Some screamed, some were pushed. All made it. Layla was helping Maya to the rail when she heard boots behind her. She spun. A guard, weapon raised. Jin appeared from nowhere, disarming him with brutal efficiency. A knee to his gut, elbow to his face. He crumpled. "Get her out of here," Jin barked. "Kai's still. I'll get Kai. Move!" Layla grabbed Maya and jumped. The water was freezing. Shock stole her breath. But Marcus was there, hauling them into the Zodiac. More women followed. Then Jin, then... An explosion rocked the Morning Star, flames erupting from the engine room. "Marcus, bum!" "What the hell?" Rodriguez's voice over comms. "Bigger boom than planned. Move, move, move!" But Kai still hadn't emerged. Layla's heart stopped. "We can't leave him!" "He'll make it," Jin said, but her eyes scanned the burning ship with barely concealed worry. 30 seconds. 45. The ship listed to one side. And then Kai appeared on the deck, sprinting full speed, Chen right behind him. They didn't hesitate. Both men launched themselves over the rail in a perfect dive. They hit the water 20 feet from the Zodiac. Marcus gunned the engine, pulling alongside them. Kai surfaced, gasping, and grabbed the side of the boat. Layla hauled him aboard with strength, born of terror and relief. He collapsed onto the deck, coughing seawater. "Dramatic entrance," she managed. He grinned through his coughing fit. "Learned from the best." Behind them, the Morning Star burned, black smoke billowing into the dawn sky. Sirens wailed in the distance, but 13 women were free. Maya was safe, and they were alive. The safe house was a renovated brownstone in Park Slope, one of Kai's many properties, this one dedicated to protecting witnesses and refugees from gang violence. A medical team waited inside. Doctors who didn't ask questions, and nurses who understood trauma. Maya clung to Layla as they were checked over. Dehydration, minor injuries, psychological shock, but nothing that wouldn't heal with time. The other women were in similar condition. Some cried, some sat in silence. One, a Nigerian woman named Ada, who'd been trafficked from Lagos, kept thanking them in broken English. "You saved us," she kept saying. "You saved us." Layla didn't know what to say. Kai coordinated everything with quiet efficiency. He'd already contacted an immigration lawyer for the foreign nationals, arranged housing, set up therapy sessions. For Maya and the American victims, he'd organized protection details and was working with a sympathetic FBI agent to build a case against the Serpents. "You've done this before," Layla said, watching him work. "Too many times." Hours passed. The sun rose higher. Maya finally fell asleep, medicated and safe. Layla sat beside her bed, holding her hand, unable to let go. Jin appeared in the doorway. "There's news. The raid on the Morning Star triggered a federal investigation. Coast Guard, FBI, Homeland Security. They're tearing apart the Serpents' operations. And the leadership? 3 arrested. 2 killed in the firefight. The rest scattered." "It's over?" Jin's smile was grim. "For now. Someone will always try to fill the vacuum. But the Jade Serpents as an organization? Finished." Layla felt something release in her chest. Relief. Exhaustion. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." Jin studied her with knowing eyes. "Thank Kai. He moved heaven and earth for you." After she left, Layla sat with her thoughts. 3 weeks ago, she'd been a different person. Safe. Controlled. Predictable. Now she'd killed men. Jumped out of windows. Fallen in love with a mob boss. The last part scared her most. Night fell. Maya woke briefly, squeezed Layla's hand, whispered, "I knew you'd come," and fell back asleep. Layla found Kai on the roof. He stood against the railing, city lights spreading before him like stars. He'd changed into clean clothes, black jeans, gray Henley. The bruises on his knuckles were fresh. "Hey," she said softly. He turned. "Hey." They stood in silence for a moment. "The FBI agent I know," Kai said finally. "She's good. Honest. She'll make sure Maya and the others are protected during the investigation. And after? Witness protection if they want it, new identities, fresh starts. Layla nodded. What about you? What about me? The FBI knows you were involved. That explosion wasn't exactly subtle. Kai's smile was dangerous. They know someone was involved, but I don't exist on paper, and my team doesn't talk. How long can you keep living like this? As long as I have to. Layla moved closer. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. She took his hand. His fingers intertwined with hers automatically. I've been thinking about what you said, Layla told him, about walking away, rebuilding my life, forgetting all this. Kai's expression shuddered. You should. This world destroys everything it touches. You've said that, but what if you're wrong? I'm not. What if some things are worth the risk? He pulled his hand away. Layla, I love you. The words hung between them, raw and honest. Kai stared at her like she'd shot him. You don't, he said roughly. It's adrenaline. Trauma bonding. You'll feel differently when… I jumped out of a second-story window on your order, Layla interrupted. I killed 2 men to protect you. I walked into hell because you asked me to. That's not trauma bonding, Kai. That's trust. That's partnership. She stepped closer, placing her hand over his heart. You see yourself as a monster. But I see a man who saved 13 women he didn't know, who built an empire to protect a city that doesn't even realize it needs protecting, who loved his sister so much he spent 17 years trying to save other people's sisters. Kai's breath shuddered. I see you, Layla whispered. All of you. And I'm not walking away. You should. Well, I'm not. So you have 2 choices. Push me away and spend the rest of your life wondering what if, or take a risk on something good for once. Nothing good survives in my world. Then maybe it's time to build a better world. Kai looked at her like she was something impossible, something precious. You're asking me to believe in fairy tales, he said softly. I'm asking you to believe in us. His control finally cracked. He pulled her against him, kissing her with everything he'd been holding back, fear and hope and desperate need. Layla kissed him back, pouring every ounce of her determination into it. When they broke apart, foreheads pressed together, Kai whispered, If you stay, there's no going back. Good, Layla breathed. I'm done running. It won't be easy. Nothing worth having ever is. People will come after us. The Serpents had allies, enemies I've made over the years. Then we'll face them together. Kai's laugh was shaky, disbelieving. You're insane. You've mentioned that. He kissed her again, softer this time, a promise instead of a claim. Okay, he murmured against her lips. Okay. Okay? Stay. Build this better world with me. Just stay. Layla smiled against his mouth. Was that so hard? Terrifying, actually. Good. You should be scared. I'm very demanding. Despite everything, Kai laughed. A real laugh, full and genuine. And for the first time, Layla saw what he might look like without the weight of his world on his shoulders. She made a silent promise to herself. She'd fight to give him that freedom, whatever it took. Thank you for watching till the end. If this story touched you, inspired you, or took you on a journey, don't leave without hitting the like button. Subscribe if you haven't, and switch your notifications on. You don't want to miss what I got coming up. Make sure to drop in the comment section where in the world you're watching from. We're building a global community of story lovers here, and your voice is part of it. See you in the next one. Have a great day.